Hey guys, this is Taylor, and today we're talking about how to add deep, powerful emotion to your talk so that when you get on stage, you not only feel it yourself, but your audience feels all the feels. They go on the emotional journey, and at the end of it, they stand up, give you a standing ovation, they applaud you, or if they're watching you online, they do the equivalent of a standing ovation, which is share it with as many people as humanly possible, all because you made them feel something. Now, before we get into it, again, it's Taylor from thoughtleader.com. That's thought-leader.com. Make sure to subscribe to this channel because we're putting out more and more content to help you become a successful speaker, a highly paid speaker, the thought leader, the credible, authoritative expert that you're meant to be. So subscribe below, click the like button, and let's get into it. Now, for you to make someone in your audience feel something at a 10 out of 10, a 10 out of 10. So they're literally crying in the audience, or they're laughing, or they're doing whatever it is, the feeling that you are trying to emote from them or invoke in them. That feeling, to be felt at a 10 out of 10 by them, needs to be felt at a 12 out of 10 by you. Let me say that again. For someone to experience the feeling that you are imparting at a 10 out of 10, you, the speaker, the origin of that feeling, have to feel it at a 12 out of 10. So, when you get on stage, if you're nervous and the lights are brighter than you thought they were going to be and the stage is making some creaking sound and you kind of forget the second line of your talk and you're kind of out of your head, you're not present, you're not authentic, the chance of you feeling it, even at an 8 out of 10, are very slim. So this video is how to deeply ingrain that feeling so no matter what happens in that room where you're speaking, whether there's a baby at the back of the room crying, someone just sneezed on your mom, or the videographer just ran out of batteries and you're the only one who knows because you're the only one who can see them, everybody else is facing you, no matter what happens, you can feel that feeling the exact same every single time, and the exact same meaning a 12 out of 10. Now, you've probably heard of the field of neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro-linguistic programming means neuro, brain, linguistic, language, programming. So like basically brain, language, programming. And what we're going to do in this video is talk about how you can program something into your body that evokes the exact same response every single time. I'm going to use an example that I used in my first TEDx talk, that I've been using in all of my talks, the hundreds of times that I've spoken over the last, 15 years. Every single time I use the same trigger, the same anchor, the same slide, spoiler alert, it's a slide, that triggers the emotion that I want to feel at that point in the talk at a 12 out of 10. Now, if there's anyone watching this that's still a naysayer and going, oh, that sounds like inauthentic to get up there and have something that's going to trigger an emotion, shouldn't you just be like going with the flow of the room? The answer to that, great question, is absolutely not. The people that ask that question are typically amateur speakers or people that have never spoken before, because they don't realize that in that room, things can be very different every single time. If you're speaking at a college and there's like 4 people showed up to the talk, which I've had happen, and they're all eating their lunch, it's a very different feeling in that room than when you're speaking at the United Nations, when I'm speaking in front of like 800 delegates from all over the world that were attentive as F, just like staring, wanting to hear what the next thing I was going to have to say, which is also totally different than speaking in front of, one time I was speaking in front of 20,000 people in Chile. Half of them spoke English, half of them spoke Spanish. Most of them were drunk because I was speaking well into the night of this like social good conference. So as you can imagine, if you're dependent on the feeling and the flow of the room, then you're very, very dependent on massive outside sources or stimuli to like get you fueled up, when in reality, you are the director of that room. You are the director of the energy, the flow, all of it. And the only way that you can direct adequately and appropriately is if you know exactly how you're going to be feeling at every single point in the talk. So I actually believe that diving deep into what is authentically the feeling that you are meant to feel at that moment, I think that is the actually most authentic way of speaking, so that every time you get on stage, you're being your most authentic you, regardless of what's happening in the room. So how do we do this? The way that I did it with this slide is I would sit down with the slide on my laptop. First of all, I would black it out so I couldn't see it. And you just put the dimmer down on your computer. And then I would sit there and I would remember all of the feelings, all of the experiences, all of the things that came up for me in that moment that the slide represents. So for me, it's a slide of pictures of 2 young girls in Uganda. It is a moment where I had this massive click. I realized that these 2 young girls, aged about 10 and 11, the rest of their lives were basically kind of set in stone. Because where they lived, it was very typical for them to get married as young as 11 or 12 years old, then spend the rest of their lives doing backbreaking labor, hauling water, firewood, and having as many children as their husbands would like. So very little control or choice in what their life was going to look like. I found that at the time incredibly saddening, and it struck me at a deep place. And so I would sit there with that slide of the picture of those two young girls, blacked out at first, and I would relive that entire experience that I had in Uganda. The sadness, the kind of desperation, the anxiety that I felt for them, like all of these feelings that I had. And then when I was feeling them, I'd ratchet it up in my experience, like really reliving that experience. And once I had it to like a 12 out of 10, I would put the slide on and stare at it and keep feeling those feelings, keep feeling those feelings, keep feeling those feelings. And then I would do a pattern interrupt where I'd take some water, I'd walk around the room, whatever it might be, to just get me out of that state, and then I'd go back and do it again. Then I'd get out of that state, back and do it again, get out of that state, back and do it again. And what I was doing was I was training my brain to react, or to give me my body the reaction that I wanted it to have every single time I saw that slide. So to this day, if you were to put that slide, I've got a projector over here in my house, if you would just put that slide up on that projector, I would start crying, because of all the work that I did to feel the authentic feelings that I correlate to that moment in my life, and therefore I feel I have a duty to convey at that point in my speech. So you can put it up there right now and I will start crying. And when we get to that level, you guys, when we get to that level of mastery over our talk, of mastery, of knowing not only the emotional experience that we are going to have in our talk, whether it be sad, whether it be something that we have a trigger that makes us happy, whatever it is, when we get to the level of mastery where we know the emotional experience that our audience is having at every single moment of our talk, we then have the ability to go with the flow of the room, to go with the energy of the room, to play with the room. You are the person that is managing the energy of that room. I've gotten on stage before and I did a talk after 4 people just did totally heart-wrenching, not funny at all, like incredibly sad talks, okay? 4 of them in a row. When I got on stage, after watching these people like completely kill the room, I was like, oh dear, this is not gonna be good. I got on stage, the energy was palpable, the sadness, they just wanted relief. And because I knew at every single point of my talk when I was gonna get people happy, when I was gonna make them sad, I knew that room did not need to go really sad again. I could bring them down to about a 7 out of 10 sad, and then I kept bringing them up and up and up and making jokes and quips and actually working with that energy rather than being beholden to that energy. And that only comes from you knowing the emotional experience that you're gonna have on stage, and therefore the emotional experience that your audience is gonna have on stage. So let's sum it up with this. Whatever the feeling is that you want to feel, my suggestion is you have a piece of paper like this, big flip chart or piece of paper, that you look at your talk and you map out the emotional journey that someone is meant to take in your talk. So you start the talk, maybe it's neutral, and it goes something like this. Okay, let's say this is the emotional journey that you want someone to have. You start off, you want them to feel high emotions, then you want them to go off a cliff and feel low emotions, then to come back and then be back onto the ground. That's a typical emotional experience of someone during a talk. If at that point, this high point, this is you laughing, then my suggestion is to get some sort of a slide, some sort of a trigger. It might be a phrase that you use over and over and over again when you're feeling in that happy, laughing, hilarious place. Have some sort of a trigger so that every time you say it, you're laughing, you're smiling, you're having the experience that you want the audience to have. And when you get to this place, maybe it's a slide, it's a picture, it might be an object on the stage, it might be a phrase that you say. Whatever it is, you want to anchor that emotion deep inside you so that every time you get on stage, it's predictable, it's replicable, and most important, everybody feels the way that you want to feel yourself and the way that you want to feel them at the same time. So, if you want more speaking tips and tricks and hacks to make your speaker career a massive success, again, make sure to subscribe to this channel. It's Taylor from thought-leader.com, and I hope you have an amazing day making people feel all the feels, you feeling all the feels, and getting that message out of your head, out of your heart, and into the world in a powerful way where it belongs. I'll see you in the next video.